think there's going to be a 6-second delay. You can make weird mouth sounds. Ruins everything. And welcome into another episode of the Make It Mark Wrestling Show on the Tell Me More podcast. I'm your host, Mac Moore, here again with Wade Christensen, Ethan Raby. How's it going, guys?
Yeah, I've been better, but
yeah.
there's this whole plague thing happening. But aside from that, I'm pretty good. Like I mentioned, I got my all-dressed Canadian ruffles in the mail coming soon, so like I have something to look forward to.
And solid, Wade. What's the best thing going in your life?
Seems like a good time to be putting things in our mouths from other countries.
Hey, Canada's handling this better than the United States, so I'll put anything in my mouth from Canada right about now.
Yeah, I think we're down to about 6 rolls of toilet paper in the house, and
you're about to have to use the backup ones that have beer stains from all the chugging from a couple weeks ago.
It's that one that you peed on and then let dry out that you're like, it'll be fine.
I burned all those for sport, boys.
It's a weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be going shit to shower soon, I believe.
Yeah, I think the French have a word for that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Amazon still has like bidets for sale, like plentiful.
They do. I was looking yesterday. A lot of them are back ordered though. Everyone kind of had the same idea. Once the toilet paper went out, people started buying bidets up off Amazon. So like the quality ones, I think aren't available to like middle of May, from what I've seen.
I mean,
that being said, I'm not picky when it comes to a bidet. I think anything will work. At this point, a turkey baster will work. So,
well, it seems like at this point, it's the bidets have gone real fast, and any of the capture cards I've been looking at to improve the video quality for these Zoom meetings. So those are the two things I need the most. I'm in a tough situation over here. Everything's on back order. I'm just waiting. My life will be much better in May. But instead of waiting till May to get our shit together, sometimes it's better to get your shit together now. Such as the WWE decided to get their shit together going into WrestleMania weekend, which I don't know about you guys. Very surprising to me. We were there the week before talking about this. I was not excited to watch WrestleMania, which it doesn't matter what's going on, what the card looks like. We all come in with something we know we're going to be disappointed by. It's WWE. Of course, we're going to be disappointed. But WrestleMania is still fun every year, no matter what. And this year was just tough to get yourself psyched up for it. And without an audience there, it just kind of, we talked about it. It would have probably been better for them to just not do it. Even with how good I think the show went, still probably makes sense to not put all of your crew in jeopardy. And I think it was just like this morning that news broke that somebody that was part of the filming has COVID-19. They said it's not somebody on the roster, but somebody that was there. And you're like, well, of course. But in terms of the performance, something I thought was going to lack, I was damn surprised by how good I thought it was. And, I'll let you guys kind of jump in. What did you think of WrestleMania weekend? Wade, you're wearing the American Badass uniform right now. Tell me what you thought.
I'm not even excited to talk about it.
Way to fucking kick off the show with Wade. All right, here we go, kids.
It just shouldn't. It's like almost like a lot of movies I see now. All these reboots. It just like shouldn't have been called WrestleMania. Like if it was called anything else in the world, I might have given it a pass. But like nothing about it felt like WrestleMania. Positive. I like not seeing the crowd. Like like I like not seeing them. I appreciate a like darkly lit crowd in a wrestling show. I think it looks cooler. So that I didn't mind that, but like the reactions, it's just that's something I need in a wrestling match. It was just really hard to get that invested in a lot of the matches. I felt the cinematic matches. Is that what we're gonna call them? I don't
Sure.
know how
Yeah.
else to call them.
I think that's the right term.
Cinematic matches. I think out of all the cinematic matches I've seen, all the deletions and Wyatt's versus New Day, the Randy Orton fiasco, I think the two that happened this weekend were the best two. Like I think WWE showed like what you can do with a match like that when you actually put some production into it. And like so far, I would put those two on top of best two cinematic matches ever.
Right. I have a lot of things to say. There's a lot of points I would like to rebut and argue with, but I'm going to let Ethan jump in and tell me what he thought of WrestleMania.
I got one rebut. Wade, you don't like indie wrestling, but you like empty arenas. I don't understand you.
He likes that one aspect. He would like WWE to have empty arenas, but with the same type of
WWE
shows.
programming with nobody in the crowd. All right, I got you. Yeah, no, I mean, picking up where Wade left off, yeah, the cinematic matches are awesome. Those were so much fun. I think that was kind of what they could have used more of. I kind of originally said this ironically, but I grew to really mean it, is the show could have used more Rob Gronkowski and Mojo Rawley. Just even during matches, just at like representing the crowd, just something. But they were fun. The 10 minutes that they had between the 2 days. But yeah, like
agree.
It's I don't care. He had his time. And I think but no, like there's certain matches that it's hard to get invested, and like it was very noticeable which ones you could really get sucked into, and maybe it was the way they were shot or the way that it was performed by the actual wrestlers. Like Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, that sucked me in. I was able to watch that and not give a shit that there wasn't a crowd, even though crowd reactions are fun. Like you said, like the noise of the crowd is awesome. You love those WrestleMania pops are huge, but
that was good.
There were certain matches that really just drew you in anyway, and I think that really showed you who some of your best talent is on the roster. Is the people that were in those matches. And then you have kind of the other one that's sort of an in-between is like Edge versus Randy Orton, which is like an all-around facility. Like you don't need a crowd for that. They're only in the ring for the first 4 minutes or whatever. You don't need a crowd for last man standing Todd Phillips tour of the Performance Center match.
I think you need a crowd when it's Tom Phillips calling the match.
Yeah, that's fair.
He was doing his worst Michael Cole impression, which is like Michael Cole doesn't do it well, but at least he's Michael Cole. Tom Phillips is doing it wrong, trying to be what Michael Cole should be, and it's
like Tom Phillips didn't see that scene in Fighting with My Family when The Rock is like, "Don't worry about being the next me. Worry about being the first you." Like that's what Phillips needs to do. Is like instead of trying to be like a Michael Cole like stormtrooper, is just like be something different. But I know that's probably not entirely, in his control. But I like you said, for it being an empty arena show over 2 nights, and it's called WrestleMania, I enjoyed it like more than a lot of the things I've watched in wrestling since they've gone to the no audience format.
I mean, yeah, and I guess if we're trying to compare it to other WrestleManias, obviously there was just no way to make this work in a way that would live up to a WrestleMania with an audience. I think in my head, based on how much I was not invested to any of the audience-less shows, even something like, there were moments of AEW that were done right. There were different promos that when you saw them by themselves, it worked. But in terms of trying to watch a 3-hour show without an audience, it's been just so bad no matter what you've done. And I think we called out the WWE when we did the previous show. We said that they hadn't tried to bend the formula. They hadn't tried to, what Undertaker ended up saying in post about the Firefly Funhouse match. You make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Like they had just ran it back. They had just come out every night and did the same thing. And based on that, I had no expectations of them figuring it out, even doing it okay. I think for all things considered, they nailed it. It was as good as it could have been minus like 3 matches. And those matches kind of in my head, one of them I knew was going to be bad no matter what, which is Goldberg versus Braun Strowman. I still wish when they have that in their head, and I know, I've listened to Bustin' Open Radio with, Bully Ray, Bubba Ray talking about the idea of bringing out your big guns, your heavy hitters, and that kind of be the mindset. And yeah, that was the mindset, and it worked Goldberg, Brock Lesnar when they faced off WrestleMania a few years ago. It even worked Goldberg's kind of surprise finish. But each of those had like a storytelling strategy to it. The way the cameras worked, the way we as fans reacted to it, and they played it off very well. They took their time, and they acted through it to make us buy in. And instead, this really was just kind of line them up and knock them down. Goldberg hits the spear, Goldberg hits the spear, Goldberg hits the spear. Braun Strowman comes back and does the other 3. At no point is there any feel that a match is happening. It's almost just kind of like they have a checklist. Vince told them to do the moves this many times. They do it. They got out of the ring. I'm not even feeling like Goldberg at all hitting Braun Strowman. Didn't feel like he was trying to kill Braun Strowman, even in a match that I didn't care about, but people got excited for the selling. When Dolph Ziggler got murdered by Goldberg, there was an element of Goldberg trying to murder him. So at least that's there. That wasn't apparent in that match. And then the one that was disappointing, because it should have been a really good match, Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar just running it back. That one I was more upset by, because it had the potential, if you're going to have that moment with Drew McIntyre, it's not just good enough for him to raise the belt above his head. You need to do something that actually works, that actually makes us excited for it. And to just run it back for those, all these finishers, like maybe Drew McIntyre kicking out of the F5 on 1 was a big deal. But then the next moment of, okay, we've seen this match. We've seen it done. Like, let them wrestle. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes, but let them wrestle and then let Drew McIntyre win. And I think those were the most disappointing for me. But otherwise, I couldn't believe how well they put on this show. And I'm not even disagreeing with Wade's take on, it's hard to get into the matches. I couldn't believe that they did that well when I was still feeling that watching so many of the matches. I felt out of it, but they still found a way to make at least enough of it. The triple threat ladder match, just finding a way to get you like, holy hell, and give you a benefit of the audience missing, hearing every shot in that match, and also knowing, if you were following along on Twitter, every superstar who's ever been in a ladder match telling you, I would never do this. I would never be in a ladder match without fans, because the adrenaline from the fans cheering is the only thing that makes this not suck. To hear that from all of them, to see that match just kind of had this huge impact when it really shouldn't have. You lost a member of the team, and it became a triple threat 3-man match instead of a tag team triple threat. And they found a way to make that match work. They did so many things and made so many things work that shouldn't have, that it's hard for me to go in and say, hey, you really fucked up. Although they did fuck up, the main event match on the final night. So can we get past that? Is it okay that Drew McIntyre's big moment that they built up with was it WWE 24 or was it 3? I don't know the difference between their documentaries anymore, but awesome documentary with Drew McIntyre leads into this awful match.
24 is the better one. That's pretty much all I know.
Yeah, there's like Chronicle and 24 and whatever. So, Wade, I'll start with you because I know you were as excited as me for Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar. Kind of, how disappointing was that to just have Drew? The only good moment is Drew McIntyre holding up the belt, but to get there, they put this shit fest on in front of us.
It was the same match that Strowman and Goldberg had. Like, same fucking match. Like, night 2, same match. It felt lazy. It felt like I'd seen it before because I fucking had. It was just, it fell flat. And then he gets apparently gets challenged by Big Show immediately after. For what? Other than to just shit on the Big Show one more time. Why? Do something. The thing is, they could have done anything, and they did a repeat of a shitty match the first night. They had to have seen on Twitter the reaction the first match got.
Well,
right?
I mean, it was already filmed, so.
Oh, true.
So for all we know, they did this one first, and like it was just Brock Lesnar's like, all right, I'm gonna get in and out. I don't want this coronavirus thing, so I'm only talking to Drew. We're not planning anything. We're getting out of this real fast. They do this match, and then as soon as it's over, Goldberg's standing there, and he's like, "Can we do that? I want to do that one. That's the one I would like to do today." I don't know. Yeah, it for me, it wasn't even just that they did the same because it's also that neither one, and I guess maybe Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar tried harder to make it seem like it really was like, here's my best shot. I'm throwing it out there. They did have Drew McIntyre sold like hell. The like, I kicked out at one, but also I'm still dead from this, you know? But like Braun and Goldberg, it really was just kind of like, all right, I'm getting to the end of my contractual obligation. I'm going to let Braun Strowman throw me 3 times and we're out of here.
Hey, I did my stuff. You do your stuff.
That one was definitely bad. And, you know, not high expectations because it's Goldberg. It's Goldberg going off on an opponent that's, you know, subbed in at the last minute. So definitely, I think Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar really upset me because it was something that should have been really, really good and that I was really excited for. And, you know, maybe you can fix it in post by just having Drew McIntyre have a good enough run that it just works. But, yeah, that definitely just left a sour taste in my mouth because, like I said, otherwise I've been going through, and if I was picking my, like, next nitpick, I know a lot of people were complaining about Edge, Randy Orton lasting too long. We haven't left our house in weeks, guys. If you don't have time for a
I have strong thoughts on that match.
That's Sandy match. I'll let you jump in with that in a second. What is wrong with you people that you're complaining that it's taking too long? Like, there are 4
I got stuff to do at 9 p.m. on a Sunday. Like, fuck you.
There are like 4 matches that got 8 minutes. Like, shut up. Like, at this point, we got 2 nights of this. Like, just live with it. Whatever happens, happens. And I would rather get too much time than too little on a last man standing match between these 2 great wrestlers. Like, calm the fuck down, you people. My actual third nitpick was just that Becky Lynch, and this is almost what crushed WrestleMania for me at the get-go, should not be the third match of WrestleMania on a 2 nights. Like, you have 2 main events, and she's not going to be either one of them. Like, that's, to me, already pissed me off. And I know once you're done with it and you look and you're like, okay, Boneyard match got to be the first main event, and then Drew McIntyre winning is the second one. Okay, so maybe Becky's not the main event, but she can't be the third match. And it can't be 8.5 minutes with Shayna Baszler. And it can't be a goddamn roll-up pin that ruins me thinking Shayna Baszler can do anything on the main roster. Like, they ruined that so bad that's when I messaged you guys in the group and just like, I'm almost out, guys. Like, I might just call it. Because that moment, I'm just like, I don't even like worrying about booking. Like, I try my best to not care. Like, in my mind, it really should have been Shayna Baszler winning and going on a run. I thought at this point, Becky Lynch needed that more than I think a lot of people think. I think that she got in a great run. She got in the year in for her to keep going. I'm just not sure who she's going to face here on out. And if you get Shayna Baszler in as this heel that she's, you know, has to figure out how to conquer, I think that does so much more for both of those competitors. If Becky would have won some other way, I would have been fine though. It's how you execute it. And they just ruined Shayna Baszler. Like, if Shayna's going to lose that way, like, it's going to be some weird, like, I don't know. The story could have been like how Ronda lost the year before by a crucifix pin. And so Shayna Baszler loses by this little roll-up, Becky getting out of the submission. It's almost like Ronda and Shayna are good cage fighters, but they don't understand wrestling. So Becky keeps winning on these fluky little things. You could tell that story. Shayna needs to end the match by beating the living shit out of Becky then. Like, she can't just walk out after losing like a punk. If you would have done that, I would have been fine with it. There are so many ways to make it work. You can't just have her lose after 8 minutes. So that was my third nitpick, and I've already knocked out. It's all going to be positive from here on out, or mostly. You know me. I'll find some more negatives along the way. But that was the one. What did you guys think of Becky Lynch not getting the main event, going on early, and it being 8.5 minutes with the other, big hitter from over the last year? Shayna Baszler's been killing it, and this is the finish we get.
Yeah, I think that was one of the best stories they had going in, and that was one of your best opportunities to make another star. I don't understand, like you said, like in my mind, it makes way more sense to have Shayna win, and maybe you have Shayna win on some bullshit roll up, or she wins on the same way. She wins with a crucifix where Becky has a shoulder up and 3 count is still counted. You have some way where you can still make that story interesting, and then you keep you add more heat to that versus just like ending that storyline. Who hasn't Becky faced? Who hasn't she beat? And who can put on another program like that? And then the placement of the match, if you're going to have that quality match and have that be the outcome, then the placement is fine. But that's the problem, is that's why both of those are wrong. Is that match should have been in a better place, and it should have been a better match, and it should have, I think, been a different outcome. And I think that it is, in the long term, it's going to hurt Becky Lynch more than anybody. Like if you look back at all the Stone Cold Steve Austin comparisons that we've heard of Becky Lynch over the past, year and a half, 2 years, part of what makes that so good is the fighting from underneath. Like that was always like, everyone knew Austin was the toughest guy. He was the biggest badass, but he just had so many obstacles to overcome, which fighting from underneath is what people have always wanted. That's why they lied to you and told you John Cena was always fighting from underneath in every program he was ever fucking in during the Ruthless Aggression era. It's because that's what people want, is they want someone fighting from underneath, not necessarily a full-blown underdog, but someone who's not just reigning at the top. They don't want another Hulk Hogan. They want another Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, and I'll say with, Becky Lynch trying to fight from underneath, when you watch Stone Cold, he lost the belt a lot. Considering how much we talk about the belt needing to build up prestige, these long runs, Austin was losing the belt, and they always found a bullshit reason for him to lose. And then he found a cool way to win it back. And if you can do that with Becky Lynch, with some, top flight competitors, which she has a lot of options coming up, potentially from NXT, you can make that work. And they're not really trying to do that right now. But I do want to jump to Wade, get his thoughts on this as our resident progressive. That's his new title now. What did you think, Wade?
Just to be safe, Shayna won, right?
Say what?
I said just to be safe, Shayna won, right?
Sadly, no.
Okay. No, okay. Shit. I think everything that you guys said is absolutely correct. I absolutely think Shayna should have won. And maybe for the first time ever, they could have given Shayna a good finish to a match. Call me crazy. I would have liked to have seen her like do something like just vicious, like give Becky Lynch a crazy headbutt to the face. And, since these are pre-taped, give her a stupid blood pact. It doesn't matter. You can edit all this shit so it does look good. And just have Becky busted up and look crazy, Shayna 1, 2, 3, and then she can go on the same terror through WWE that she did through NXT. She's one of the only real heels in all of wrestling. Like people legitimately hate her, and it's because she's so dominant and so she's the female Brock Lesnar. Like she has that like legit background. She looks like she can kick your ass, and she probably can. I think it's a moment wasted. I don't think anyone it's not going to do Becky anything. But her getting her face bashed in from an illegal headbutt and losing her title, remember last time she got her face bashed in, did a lot for her career.
We were there. It was a good time.
Yeah. I just don't know why. I don't care what order it's in. Last year, the very first match was Seth and Brock.
Well, and so, I think with coming on first, and that's kind of what the thought was with Charlotte and Rhea starting out the night. It's like you can put a big match on first to kind of get the crowd amped up, and I'm fine with that. Becky getting 8 minutes in between, it was less than Elias and King Corbin that came before it, which was a fine match. I think I was actually surprised with how good that one was, all things considered. and then Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan after. Both of those matches getting more time, and it was squeezed in the middle there. That's the problem. I think you can make reasons why it goes on at certain spots, but when she's this, Becky Lynch is the superstar. She is the one that in the last year has shown she has the potential to be a megastar. And for you to just kind of like, it's just in the middle of the card. That's the type of thing where it's not just placement, but it's placement for somebody that you should do whatever you can to make it seem important. It doesn't have to be last, but it has to seem like you care. And this is just like another one just kind of thrown in like, who gives a shit? And you can't do that with Becky Lynch.
Yeah, it's just like, what's that Ricky Bobby quote about wrestling? If you're not last, you're first.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Got it. Nailed it. So we did the negatives. Let's get to the positives, which, Wade started us out talking about the cinematic matches and the idea that, these were better than the previous ones we've seen with the Wyatt family and this and that. I don't think it was just that they were better. Like, I think they were great. I think literally when I finished the Boneyard match, I was amazed by how good it was, because I've known that WWE can put on some decent vignettes that they do with – we've seen Bray Wyatt do it. Everything other than the actual matches they did with Bray Wyatt, they made some pretty cool stuff in the back sometimes. They had the money to do it. They had awesome cameras. They just needed to get the right cinematographers. Apparently, they just hired some people that were local down in Florida at the time, got some actual filmmakers, brought them in, and it looked amazing. And that's why, like, when it got started, I was just like, wait, is this actually going to be good? Like, what the hell is happening right now? And they put on, if you wanted to be negative about it, if you want to come in and say this is just kind of like a stuntman performance, fine, but also fuck you. Like, it was a great time, great coming in, and they are
people saying that? Are people saying that about this match?
If you go on to any comments on Facebook of posts about the Boneyard match, there are those detractors. Like,
can we share a link to the show on those comments? Tell those people to go fuck themselves.
Yeah, you can go find
that's
them
a ridiculous take.
Yeah,
like I'm thinking like Jay and Silent Bob, like at the end of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, kind of a thing. Like
I'm in.
Like calling this like, and it like, oh, it's stunt work. It's like, you never watched fucking wrestling before? Like, what do you want out of a non in-ring segment without a live crowd?
They want it to be live. Anything else is blasphemy. It's destroying wrestling. I saw one that said it was killing kayfabe, which was hilarious. Like, I couldn't believe that was the argument they went to. It's like, this one, like maybe the Firefly Funhouse, but you think the Boneyard match is what's killing kayfabe? Get the fuck out of here. Because Undertaker rose out of
arguably, it's the most kayfabe thing you could do.
Yeah,
is your cinematic matches. Like, are you kidding me? Like, and the only, like, is it too cinematic? Is that the problem? I mean, you go back, like your other non-in-ring matches. Like, I think last time we talked about like Goldust and Piper at WrestleMania in LA, and it was like more or less, it was more like a more vamped up version of like Piper's fight scene from They Live. Like, it's a fight scene at that point. When you're doing a wrestling match, not in front of a live crowd, the line is very blurred between a fight scene in a film and a wrestling match. And that's what kind of is, those are matches that are almost easier to draw people in, like your mainstream audience and your people that don't understand in-ring storytelling, because the storytelling is more mapped out for you.
I also thought they did an amazing job, because even if I compare it to like the Firefly Funhouse, I thought the Boneyard match made it like, okay, it's a fight scene, but also it's enough like a real fight. Any of the cuts where they were still in position, it still kind of seemed like they were trying to keep a continuity so that we're watching these two fight in a graveyard. And I mean, it's just an amped up version of a Buried Alive match, and I'm perfectly fucking fine with that. And I thought, even some like the Undertaker and AJ Styles, apparently they had to ask to start ad-libbing. Like, there wasn't a game plan for them to talk to one another. And that was perfect. Like, that's something that should have been done a little bit more, even for the in-ring matches that were happening at WrestleMania. You don't have an audience. You need to figure out how to tell the story verbally, like Sami Zayn did in the match with Daniel Bryan. Like, find a way to use the negative to your advantage. In the Boneyard match, if they wouldn't have been talking shit to one another, it wouldn't have been as great. I had such a great time having them, Undertaker calling him Alan. Where are you going, boy? Like,
oh yeah,
that was so damn good.
Like the portion towards the end of the match too. It's like this is always, you have like the evil mystique of the Undertaker, the scary factor of the dead man taker, and like I think it's on some people it's kind of lost when you get to American Badass Biker Taker, but like the moment where he's like just choking him over the top of the grave and he reassures him and tells him, "You fought your ass, son. I'm not gonna bury it." He hugs him and he's got this creepy smile on his face. It's like, that's way more fucking sadistic. At least with like Dead Man Undertaker, I know what I'm supposed to be afraid of. This is like a psychotic biker who murders people. And it was a good reprise of that character too. Perfect. And yeah, like you said, their banter back and forth was really good. And AJ is like sniveling like near the end, like about to die. AJ Styles. That's some of the best, that's some drama right there. That's some TNT. This is drama. Like that's AEW's network, I guess, but you know what I mean. Like that's just some good wrestling drama right there.
No, I loved it. I thought with what they're like, the potential of an Undertaker match, seeing how much it just kept getting worse, and we kept hearing stories that the Undertaker just wanted one more time to prove himself, and that one more time, other than maybe the Rusev match in Saudi Arabia, which was a surprise that was as good as it was.
I forgot that happened.
Everything else was like, you should have just stopped, and I get it. He's the Undertaker, and if he doesn't feel like he's done, if he wants that one more time to prove himself, you have to give it to him. And it's weird now because this almost seems like that perfect moment. It's like, this could be it. Just make it it. But he also earned, if he says he still wants to do one more of these, maybe not a match in the ring, but if he says he wants to do one more of these, maybe with Sting next year, I'm fucking in.
It'd be perfect.
I have to ask Wade because his face just popped up. He's super excited right now. Wade, how did you feel about this match? Or just tell me how excited you just got to hear the idea of Undertaker Sting in a cinematic match next year.
Ooh.
Hey.
I liked it because, like, at first I thought it was like American Badass Biker Taker. I'm not a fan of Biker Taker. Like, it's just like my least favorite version. Probably.
Historically, I agree with you.
But this seemed like a really good amalgamation of Dead Man Biker
Unholy
Taker.
Trinity, if you will.
An Unholy Trinity. I still don't know what the Unholy Trinity is. Like,
Dead Man, Phenom, American Badass.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm just making this shit up. I have no fucking.
Oh, well, that's a pretty good.
Forgot about Mean Mark Callis.
Okay. Because, like, he was motorcycle riding, doing the stuff, but he was still like transporting his body, and like it was, I feel like it was a good effort on both of them. Whoever was producing this match did a fantastic job doing that. Let's go to Sting. That's just a match I think everyone's always wanted to see ever. And I think if they're going to do that match, this is the way to do it now that that's an option. Hell yeah, that'd be fucking cool.
Do you want to hear my booking for it?
Yes, let's talk about that.
I feel like, Wade, you won't like this, but I'm going to try anyways. So based on how this one finished, because AJ Styles is in the grave and he's got his hand up, I want Undertaker to come back for the next year, and I want him to be the leader of a stable, the Biker Club, with AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, and Anderson. And I want AJ Styles to basically be Undertaker's little bitch. He is now submitted to the Undertaker because of what happened in that Boneyard.
He drives him around in a sidecar.
So basically you have Undertaker sitting there more as a manager type. That sidecar is out. So you have them wrestling with this stable, and I want Gallows and Anderson to be tag champs. I want AJ Styles to at least be a TV title. I want him to be IC or US. And I want Undertaker to basically be there, having those three run destruction for him, minimally letting him fight, but keeping it just, not too many matches. And I want you to build that up to eventually be Sting coming back to take down the Biker Club. And he first has to face AJ Styles in a match, because hopefully if Sting can go even just a little bit, AJ Styles is the one most likely to make us think Sting can still go. So one match where Sting taking down AJ Styles makes him look good, leads into a WrestleMania match where it is Undertaker, Sting, and I don't even know what references you have to add in to make it Sting. It's like a boneyard rip-off 90s movie match. Whatever it's called, put that together. These two face off, but that's my long-term booking plan.
I can picture that happening in like a back alley with a lot of chains and like water, just like a wet back alley with chains match. What it'll be.
It ends with Undertaker using a fake gun, but twist, it's a real gun. Is that too dark? Can we not do that? Sorry.
I don't know. I feel like it's a good way to wrap up that character, but
yeah, that's how the Crow ended.
Feels like a really good way to wrap up a lot of things.
Telling someone it's a fake gun, that's a really good way to wrap up a lot of your problems.
Whew. Manslaughter.
It's not one of my best ideas. It's just an okay idea.
You had me.
It just manslaughter
towards the end.
The manslaughter was a joke, but the rest of it, I mean, which part of the actual what I wanted to have happen do you think is a bad idea?
The people dying.
No, yeah, that was a joke.
Just the end. Just the end was bad. Everything else was fine.
I was joking with the manslaughter part. No, but like
maybe a better name than Biker Club.
Yeah.
It's kind of perfect. There's no other way to
Dead
do
Man Inc. It's already there.
Well,
Dead Man Inc.
I mean, yeah.
Duh.
But the club, you're losing the club. You're losing the club part where WWE wants to sell as many club items away from the Bullet Club as they can.
Kill it.
Yeah, but they want to do it. You're taking out Vince will not sign on unless he can steal some money from the Bullet Club. We all know this, man.
We still got Balor Club, man. Still got that Balor Club coming in.
Is it heel now? People aren't buying this. Never mind, they're buying the shirts. So yeah, fine. If you want to go Dead Man Inc., it's a good name. The point being, put that stable together, and I think AJ Styles already made it where Undertaker's career can either finish on the right note or be extended if that's what Undertaker wants to do. You might as well let them work together if that's what's going to happen. I think that also, because, a lot of people had those dumb questions after, oh, is AJ Styles dead? It's like, it's an Undertaker match. People have come back from buried alive matches. We're perfectly fine with it. Nobody was like, oh, Stone Cold dead? That was bad booking. Like,
no, there was a one time that Undertaker lost a buried alive match and came back without his fucking character riding a motorcycle. So,
loved it.
Sometimes things happen.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're all on board. I am the new head writer for WWE. I'm glad that could happen today. The other cinematic match we have to talk about, because this one, man, I in my mind, I'm going to go Boneyard as my favorite, but this one has so many more implications. The Undertaker could just be his last match. The Fiend versus John Cena in a Firefly Funhouse match. So crazy good that Wade had to put his sunglasses on at the moment. I'm switching to talk about this match. I'm not even going to start the topic. I'm going to jump straight to Ethan because you are our resident smark. You are the perfect person to tell us about what Wade called in his review. You can find that online. It says that it is a Smark's wet dream. And I think that was picture perfect. That's a Ebert level movie review of Firefly Funhouse. I think somebody should pay you to be a movie reviewer at this point, Wade. Ethan, did you think it was the best part of WrestleMania, and why?
I don't know if I would say it's the best part. It was one of the highlights.
Absolutely. Play your role, Ethan. You're supposed to say it's the best part. Goddamn neckbeard.
We're gonna get to that role. All right. By the way, all of us are neckbeards here. Like, look at the cameras. This is ridiculous.
Mine's very thin.
Throwing terms around. Mine goes up. No, it was great. And yeah, like I mean, calling it like what'd you say, a Smark's wet dream is.
That's what Wade said. I didn't say that.
Yeah, well, now you've both said it. Now I've said it, so I'm implicated. But Yeah, I mean, it was for somebody who follows wrestling and cares about long-term booking. It was kind of like almost there to make up for a lack of long-term booking. It's like it booked itself really, and they were just really smart about it, down to the point of like John Cena's final promo. You know, which added up to me. That was something that I really enjoyed because I didn't like that promo when he was like calling Bray Wyatt the most overhyped, overrated, yada yada yada, and then when it comes full circle around. It's a really smart use of that.
In the moment, I loved it because I knew it was it was setting you up, Ethan. You got worked, son. You got worked.
I got worked.
I knew it when I heard it.
Worked.
Ethan was getting worked. I could feel your emotions at that point in time while I was listening.
Yeah, good.
He got you.
Hey, you should try getting worked sometime. It feels great. Ethan. It really makes you enjoy. Yeah, fuck me for enjoying wrestling. Like getting worked is awesome. It's great. Like it was able to do that. They handled it very well, and I think a lot of it also is you can see that it wasn't just one-sided. You could see John Cena's investment in this too. That he really put his whole ass into it, and it really it made the whole thing work. I watched it twice because I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything, and it was because some references are on the surface, some are a little more rooted in kind of the either the John Cena lore or wrestling lore. Like it's all over the place. Like a 9-year-old isn't gonna understand this match.
I mean,
this is something that they could enjoy, but they're not going to get all of the references to. Yeah. It's definitely still going to be entertaining for all demographics, but it's going to be entertaining in a different way that like people who have watched wrestling since this goes back to at least the mid 90s of its references, all the way through John Cena and Bray Wyatt's career together. There's just a lot there. There's a lot to unpack, and they unpack it in a not totally obvious, right in your face. It's apparent. You're supposed to get it.
Yeah.
They're not trying to make you think too deeply while you're watching this match. And it was just so well executed. So yeah, I loved it. That was great.
Right. I want to circle back to the specific references and all that stuff. But first, I want Wade to tell us, give us your 5-star review of this match. How many stars did it get?
Out of cinematic matches, I'll give it 5. Like it was more than I expected. Like I wanted to hate it. I really wanted to hate it.
I know you did, Wade. I know you did.
I was fighting it pretty hard up until the Vince McMahon puppet said such good shit, and then I was just like, I laughed and I was just like, okay, like I'm fucking in. Like, God damn it, I'm in.
Now who got fucking worked?
Yeah. Yeah. It was me. It was me, Ethan. It was me all along. It was every version of John Cena, every version of Bray Wyatt, an NWO thing that like I didn't make sense to me, but I still loved it all the same.
How didn't it make sense to you?
I just didn't understand what either one of them had to do with the NWO.
Well, okay,
that one did take me a second to get. That one I had to kind of double back in, and it wasn't right off the top of my head.
I understand everyone's wanted John Cena to turn heel.
Well, it's not just turn heel; it's the Hulk Hogan analogy. I mean, so the first '80s like montage they do that's not a John Cena character. It's essentially a Hulk Hogan type. Like they go back and Johnny Large Meat is this kind of Bray Wyatt.
Johnny Large Meat,
such a great name, and that's kind of the key to this is on some level it's not just simply everybody can easily say, oh, you're going to turn John Cena heel. Like we'd been saying that about all the characters, all the wrestlers that had gone up against the Fiend. We were like, oh, this is going to be them turning heel because they need to. And some of them did, and some like you have the Daniel Bryan where he just kind of went back and forth between heel, face, heel, like doing this craziness. Just keep Daniel Bryan as a face. That's simple enough. But like Finn Balor turns heel going down to NXT. Like they found a way to make that work, but it all simply was, oh, you face the Fiend, he's going to turn you. If you're a face, you're going to go heel. If you're a heel, you're going to go face. With John Cena, it's something we've been talking about forever. It's something we've wanted for so long. And part of it is we've constantly compared him to Hulk Hogan, not just because of how he is as a babyface, but because Vince would never turn him. He was too much money as a face. It wasn't going to happen. And so that's when you have the Vince puppet right there. It's so plain on the surface that that's what John Cena is in any of these flashback montages, that he is that Hulk Hogan type. And if, he was able to jump ship, I mean, I guess John Cena could try to go to AEW, but doesn't seem like any other way Vince is going to let him become heel, but he needs it. Maybe, just maybe, Vince trusts Bray Wyatt enough to let him have this match and to go forward. Maybe the next time we see John Cena, he's a heel. I just doubt it. I don't think Vince will follow through. I think Vince is just going to give us a little bit more to keep sucking us in. So it's that much more powerful when John Cena turns away from the hate that the Fiend brings into his heart, and he ends up winning his next championship as a face of the next WrestleMania. That's the more likely scenario. But goddamn, it was a good time to watch it. And, I did want to circle back to Ethan talking about all the little things. Like, that's probably the best part about this, is that not only did they have this kind of psychology that was the Smarks take on what John Cena's career was, what Bray Wyatt's failures have been in WWE, but it was also that all those little bits, whether it's when John Cena's punching Bray Wyatt and you have the flashbacks, every shot is a shot of a big loss for John Cena. It's him losing to Edge. It's CM Punk running away with the title. They just one after another. They just have these quick flashes of John Cena's biggest failures before the Fiend ends up beating John Cena. When you have the backstage stuff with all the little jokes from Bray Wyatt, it seems like it's just a comedy bit, but he packed in so many little details that, yeah, when you go back to rewatch it, it's amazing how many, and it's not supposed to be under the surface, but it is overwhelming how much is there and how much time Bray Wyatt put into this. It's not as simple as heel hurt or whatever the hell is on the gloves. It's Bray Wyatt taking the time to care about this character, to care about the presentation, and even better, it's about Vince letting it happen, Vince putting the okay for such good shit. And I don't know whether that means in the future anything good will happen. I think at the end of the day, even when Vince decides to get on board, he could be on board today and he could be against it tomorrow. But for one night, we got to watch that Firefly Funhouse and think to ourselves, maybe he will give us what we want. And even somebody like me, who's the closest to being a WWE apologist, I'm fine with John Cena's career. I love the moments when fans hated him. I think it added to it, and I enjoyed every second of him, doing his little, put his heel on the ground and, giving these little references to heel turn, but never doing it. I also am somebody who would just fucking love if John Cena turned heel. It doesn't need to be some NWO thing. It just is John Cena finally getting to try something different, and he's already got the hair for it. Come on, guys. Just let him be a heel. None of us can get our hair cut. He could just be that living embodiment. And one way be a heel, but also be somebody we connect with for the first time. Because I don't know how to connect with John Cena, big muscle arms and his Johnny large meat persona. But I do know how to connect with guy who keeps losing, is at the end of his rope, and his hair looks stupid because he can't get to a barber during this pandemic. I can connect with that John Cena, and I'm excited to see what it looks like in wrestling going forward. I'll let one of you jump in.
Yeah, I mean, we've hated John Cena enough. Like do something with him so we can finally like him. And the only way to make someone like someone in WWE is turn them heel, apparently. So yeah, maybe give John Cena a chance that everyone cheers him now. Doubtful, very, very doubtful. And I don't even, at this point, I don't care if it happens. I'm over anything John Cena. I'd be fine if this was his last match. That'd be fine. That's a good way to go out, is something like going out on something really weird. No?
It's not gonna
happen. But yeah, more importantly, the Fiend is chasing back after his title and going after Braun Strowman now. That little exchange was, I thought, some of the best promo work Bray Wyatt's done in a long time. It was top tier Bray Wyatt. Braun still sucks on the mic, but top tier Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. I want to say a while back when we were originally kind of fantasy booking the Fiend, maybe after SummerSlam last year. That was kind of my big payoff is Braun versus Fiend. It's happening about a year earlier than I expected, but storyline wise, again, this is one where I think if you just, I think that no matter what the split was as far as who told that story of how much was it dependent on John Cena, or is it that it was a Bray Wyatt opportunity to tell the kind of story, which again kind of just plays more into the Firefly Funhouse character. There's plenty there for Braun and Bray to where you can build this program very easily without having to expose Braun on the mic too much.
Yeah, and I feel like you could help Braun get better on the mic through this rivalry if you did it the right way. I think the biggest problem is the same problem we saw with the Fiend going up against Seth Rollins, and what we've seen with the Fiend. The idea to even let Goldberg win. It's that the Fiend is a heel. I think the Firefly Funhouse showed us Bray Wyatt at his best. He is a dark hero to a corrupted fan base. Like, that's the way to play it. Like, that's when Bray Wyatt was at his strongest as part of the Wyatt family, getting cheered, having the fans chanting, like, for him. That's
kind of like the Joker with a bunch of incels.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that's the way the fans respond, if Vince can actually learn to roll with the punches, you can have the Fiend go up against Braun Strowman, and you get Braun Strowman back to what he did well, which was not be a babyface. Once he started trying to be the superhero that Vince imagines for somebody who's 6'8" and over with the fans, that's when they ruined Braun Strowman. Get him back to that monster badass who was ripping Roman Reigns apart week in and week out, but have him try to do that to Bray Wyatt. Have him trying to beat the hell out of the guy who's coming after his Universal title. And if you could get him back to just being a monster who's not trying to be a good guy, I don't think you see the problems with what Braun does on the mic. I think you can fix that really easily. Once again, this is the when there are issues with Vince, these are the type of ones where he won't see it that other way, and he'll stop the potential for something like this to work. And that's what really scares me, because Braun doesn't have anything going for him. He didn't have anything going for him until he got the strap off Goldberg. There was not a big lead up coming in. He was not getting his pops were at the lowest they've been since he became this big star after destroying Roman Reigns. So I don't want him to go in against the Fiend at that moment, unless you're going to tell that story right. The same way each person that had to switch from a heel to a babyface or a babyface to heel against the Fiend before, they all were at a crossroads. Seth Rollins was a face that wasn't getting cheered because he actually was doing much better with that stupid laugh as a heel. You have guys like Finn Balor just was so flat as a babyface. Get him back. Get him that edge back. He's the demon. He's not a guy who is excited to be there for the fans.
Kurt Angle was back on TV, and he shouldn't have been. Like, exactly. I get what you're saying, and I agree. And I think that one of the biggest things with the Fiend's storylines, and I think it's important to not make this too formulaic, but is that it's very, very deeply steeped in callbacks and history of other characters, and it's that easy. It's like wrestling fans have good memories. Like, they remember everything. They really do.
Too many things.
And to the point where it's annoying. And but it's something that having that character that just plays on people's psyche brings up different parts of the history. Maybe that's the whole thing. Is he's chasing the Fiend. He throws the Fiend in an ambulance, flips the ambulance, or the Fiend is not in the ambulance. Things like that. Like these greatest hits. Like you play back through somebody else's greatest hits, but you alter it to fuck with them. That's kind of right now seems to be the ongoing formula. And then, like you said, you take their biggest insecurity and use it against them in order to literally lead them into different booking decisions, like change the trajectory of that character, which is why the Fiend is such an important character in wrestling right now.
So if we're going to buy into this thing, the only way to solve the Goldberg dilemma, which is that Goldberg is completely fine with the character he is, a bad wrestler who can only do a spear. So that he has no insecurity. That's how he's able to beat the Fiend. what is Braun Strowman's insecurity? What is the thing that the Fiend is going after that will put Braun in harm's way when he's in these matches with the Fiend?
I think it should be that he is not like he belongs to Bray. Like it should be that he's not good enough to make it on his own, and that he's not a leader, he's a follower.
I like that.
And then yeah, it should be, because like there really isn't enough about the Braun Strowman character that we know. But that's like he's already touched on, I created you, I will destroy you. I think that would be a good way to keep this going. Is that you're nothing. You're not even Harper and Rowan. You were a fourth cog in this. I think that'd be a good way to go. I think after that he should just be like the Fiend's little flunky.
Yeah, go back to kind of where it was. I mean, I could see that. I think
put him in a giant sweater.
If you're gonna look at like, is there an insecurity with the Braun Strowman character? I'd say you go the opposite of what his biggest security is, which is fear. Is that everyone fears him? It's get these hands. It's the monster among men. It's his music hits and it's intimidating. It's just sapping that from him and making him not as much of a fear-mongering, source. However, the Fiend can do that. I think if we're going to go again, the kind of how we've been looking at every other character, playing off of his insecurities, I think those are the most likely insecurities of Braun Strowman versus having to talk into a microphone without a script.
Yeah, I like Wade's. I think it's better than the one I had. I mean, I thought with get these hands. Braun Strowman's just always talking about his hands. I think you do a little Bray Wyatt coming out as a press conference. You attack the Donald Trump, scared of people thinking he has little hands. I think that's the only thing I had. So I think I'll go with Wade's. Wade's is pretty solid. So I do want to ask with if Wade's idea is the way to go, and it's all about putting Braun Strowman back as the follower. Over under on number of Brody Lee references we get. Doesn't have to actually be the name spoken, but clearly hinted at. What's the over under we're going with?
I think it's
low. I think
it's low. I would like to see a lot. I bet it's low.
I mean, 3 is good, and it's a low number, but it's enough in a rivalry. I guess it depends on how long.
I would say the under, because also Brody Lee wasn't even really. Think of the opportunities that were missed with him as well. And also, since they've left, you don't get references to Moxley, you don't get references to Jericho. I think that the fact that it should happen is there. I bet you get at least one, but will it happen? Probably not, just based on how the current culture is in the competitiveness of the wrestling world right now.
Wade, the number's 3, over under.
I'm hoping over. I would like to see like a cool little back and forth between the Exalted One and the Firefly Funhouse in their
never
vignettes.
Gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
Like not
what fucking planet do you live on, Wade?
Let me finish. In the way like the DX and NWO would both have little like Easter eggs hidden within their promos that were references to the other people.
Yeah, I want it. I get what you're saying. There's no chance it's going to happen.
I mean, like it's just New Day gets away with a lot of shit that's coded that Vince McMahon just doesn't know what it means.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I think that's because it's New Day, and they're gonna just.
Well, it's also because they're dick references. So, like in the moment, if Vince knew, he'd be like, "Don't say that on TV." And then when he finds out in post, he's like, "Ha, that's kind of funny." But like when somebody tells him in post, it's like, "Oh, Bray Wyatt just referenced Brody Lee," and he'll be like, "Who the hell is that?" He's like, "Luke Harper, motherfucker!" Like it changes very quickly. Like
he would still hesitate. It wouldn't be like Luke Harper, motherfucker. It'd be like Luke Harper.
Wait,
like,
who? He still
Harper.
does have no idea.
Oh, he's still wrestling.
The guy with Styles.
Oh lordy, yeah. But yeah, I don't. like you said, and also with it being DX and NWO, there's overlapping like long-term friendships and like and relationships there too. Whereas yes, you do have that with the Wyatt family, but I don't think to the extent as you had with the Clique. So I don't think they're going to be like, oh, my buddy Scott Hall is stuck in a contract dispute. Like that's, I think, a different relationship. And I don't know how close those guys are exactly, but it just doesn't seem like, I don't think these guys are like ODing in hotel bathrooms together. I don't think they're that close.
Yeah, that's why I don't like wrestling as much as I used to. So yeah, I just hope that when they do this, it isn't just the Braun Strowman we've seen for the last few months. Like, I don't even think if the end game is him losing to the Fiend and then we get a change in persona, I still don't think we need to see Braun Strowman be exactly the same in the lead up to that match. If that's what happens, that'll make me not excited for that match whenever it may go down.
He's becoming that next guy that every promo is the exact same thing. It's just like anger, an insult, and a threat. Like, that's it. It's just this formula. And then also on top of that, just over enunciating to make sure he doesn't miss a word.
But then he does miss a word because of it.
Right. Exactly. So it's like and I kind of wonder how much of that is he overhandled, or is it something that if you just kind of let him do his thing, I think it would probably be better.
His lips were tripping up over his eyebrows.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you have lips and eyebrows like that. But I think I think we've talked about this before too, where it's like with Braun, there doesn't need to be this like added element of like at this point of like depth. Like, I think that there's a lot of kind of leaning too much into whatever, is he babyface and him leaning into fan reaction, or should he just be a straight up like doesn't really react to the crowd reacts to him only? He's just a straightforward big boot to the face and move on what he's doing, or does he have to look to the crowd for approval and nod and look to see what they're doing, like a John Cena or like a Hulk Hogan? Like, it doesn't suit him, I feel like.
Yeah, like I said, hopefully they figure something out for him, because I still like what he's capable of doing. I liked there was flashes of Braun Strowman where you're like, this is a guy who can be a top superstar in WWE. You just have to put him in the right positions, do the right things. They have not done any of that over the course of the last year. Let's try to talk about a few of the other matches.
By the way, this cat is begging for an RKO right now. Like, she's just sitting there. More of a diamond cutter, really. She's more of a WCW fan.
Well, we'll give you a chance. That might end up being the next match we talk about. I'm going to give both of you guys a chance. We've talked about most of the big matches on the card. I want to know what's one that we haven't talked about yet that, I mean, this could just be that you hated it and you wanted to get word in about how bad it sucked, or what was one that really surprised you with how good it was. Wade, we'll start with you.
I think really the only like considerable match we haven't talked about was Orton and Edge, right?
I think there's one other one, but yeah.
There's a couple, but there's a few we didn't talk too in depth, but really, what was the next big match on the card?
The other one is Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. Is the other big one. To me, that honestly,
we touched on it.
I guess we touched on it, but I think that was one of the most compelling matches, as well as the Edge Randy Orton match. So, Trevor, you guys want to talk about first?
Well, let's go with Edge and Orton. It might take us another hour of this podcast, but I just had to get one joke in. No, I really do hate fans for that. It was one that it was hard for me to argue with the fans, because it was one I was so excited in, but it didn't necessarily deliver on the level I wanted it to. But I also didn't think it was this awful match where I was trying to go to sleep. It was just, in terms of the stuff that was going on backstage, I was hoping they'd do a little bit more. They kind of saved the big stuff for the very end of the match. And so as they're just going through the Performance Center, I think, Tom Phillips just kind of ruined it for me. He was calling it like it was a golf match. And you're like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, this is a blood feud between these two guys. Like, wake up. Like, stop whispering during this match.
That was so weird. It was the only time he would speak up was when he was like, now they're moving into the storage facility of the PC. But then when actual action was happening, he was muttering or wasn't saying anything. And that I almost wonder if that was direction, because as we've learned, Tom Phillips is a fucking puppet. So I don't know if it's direction of them wanting Edge and Orton, and even to a point the referee of like adding drama just from themselves, which was definitely a big factor in the match. So the commentary was weird in this match. It was almost like halfway between like, do you need to be here or you need to be doing more?
Yeah.
So that was kind of my biggest complaint of the match. The length, fuck, dude, we've been without Edge matches for 9 years, and I'm a huge Edge head. So that match could have gone another 20 minutes, and I would have been fine. And them moving all through the entire performance center, great. I know I've heard someone refer to it as the Chris Benoit spot. Was a little controversial, but to me, I mean that didn't really seem exactly like it was a total nod to that. It was more of a just holding him in place and the control, just a normal sadistic, normal Randy Orton torture shit like that we're used to.
I think if the documentary Dark Side of the Ring of Benoit did come out the weekend before, nobody would have said shit about it. Or there would have been a few, but we wouldn't have cared as much.
I agree entirely. It was those two things happened so close together. So yeah, but no, I thought they put on a great match. I thought they were very creative in what they did. It was one of the top 3 most unique matches on the card. And it's one of those things like you said earlier. It's like if wrestling fans have somewhere else to be, then they should be there. Like, why are you complaining about the length of this match when it's also, in my opinion, the best storyline going into this entire WrestleMania? At least within the build between Royal Rumble to now, like you have Bray Wyatt and John Cena. That's years long, so it has an advantage there. But Edge and Randy Orton also has a years-long build, and then has a really hot build from the Royal Rumble on. And you want a good match. You want a long match. You want them to beat the fucking shit out of each other so neither one can stand, because that's the whole point of the match. I don't know what people are complaining about.
Yeah, I with the time, like, honestly, there were other matches that, would go on for a while, and I just didn't care. But I wasn't going to complain. Like, it didn't matter how long the Bayley 5-way match went. It was like a lot of the stuff that happened in the match was fine. It was all things considered, they did a pretty good job on that match. I also just don't care about Bayley and Sasha to this point, that there was no way to get me invested in that match, so it just didn't matter. And I wasn't jumping on Twitter to tell people how bad it was. I just sat there and waited for it to end and get to the next match. If you didn't like what was going on with Edge and Randy Orton, once again, we're stuck at home in a pandemic. Go and run a lap around your house and come back and see if a new match is on. But complaining online, trying to tear it down when you're right, this had such a good build going in. I just didn't understand any types of complaint on the time. Wade, what did you think of the match?
I think I would have rather preferred a match in the ring, to be honest. I'm not a big fan of backstage brawls. They're just never like – everyone's trying to be safe, and it's really hard to commit to kicking someone's ass when, there's no way to be safe. So I'm just not a big fan of those. And then, like, it was long. Like, it was really long. But because there's just like moments of where they're both just and like breathing at each other, and like all you have is a ref counting really loud, extra loud, and like it exhausted me. Like, I was just like, I don't know if I can watch how much more WrestleManias after this. Like, I was checking to see, damn, like, I hope there's only like a half hour left, because that's about all I got in me. And I ended up falling asleep and missing the rest of the pay-per-view until the next day. That's true. I'm not being a dick. I fell asleep. I think it's just it's a match that I don't think will be remembered at all. And that's a shame, because it's Edge's first match back. He after being gone 9 years, and I'm not an Edge fan, like, I think that's known on this podcast, but after 9 years of being gone, I think he deserved a better match.
Yeah, and I think the biggest flaw here is the format. I think with the storyline, it makes sense. Last man standing matches are weird to begin with. Like, it's a weird format. It's hard to pull off. I really can't think of like a last man standing match that has that, like you said, that long-term, like memorable, like standout kind of quality that you want from a WrestleMania match.
For WrestleMania, it's tough. Asuka, Nikki Cross, when they did their last woman standing match.
That's probably
I still go back to watch every couple months. I go back and rewatch that thing because it was damn good
that
time.
might be the best use of that format. But that format is, I know there was the one with Gargano and Ciampa as well. But like also, it's a very awkward match to watch because you hit a big spot and then you have like not 10 seconds, you have a 10 count, which is about 30 seconds of like. And God bless the referees, but this is like their time to shine. This is like them, like get like them in the fucking limelight, and then you could be like Mike Chioda. Mike Chioda should never do a last man standing match again. He's a little too much for me. And
too much in normal matches.
I don't remember this referee's name. I just call him Guido Ref. He's like the really short, like dark-haired ref who's like jacked.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a good ref. Like he's one of those people like. And as a wrestling fan, you have your refs you like and refs you don't care about or don't see again or whatever, but like there's a quality of watching wrestling as a whole. You have an appreciation for your referees. That's why people like Earl Hebner made a career out of it, and Tim White, and Aubrey Edwards. And this is kind of one of those things where it's like this format alone is just kind of a shitty format. Like I would have rather seen between Edge and Orton in this big feud blow up, like I don't know, like a steel cage match or something. I don't know, but again, that's one of those matches that you go back to what you said with the ladder matches of how do you do this in front of a crowd when you don't have the adrenaline keeping you going, or you do like a submission match or an I Quit match is even better format of that. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think that it wasn't even necessarily the length. I think if that match had gone on that long and been a regular just singles match or a no DQ match or an I Quit match or a cage match, you wouldn't have had as many complaints because I think the last man standing format does exhaust you as a wrestling fan.
All right, devil's advocate here. Guido Ref killed it. Did a great
job. He was great.
In that match.
I'm not putting
this
him down.
This is a joke, so please don't jump in. I'm trying to do this bit here real quick.
Well,
he killed it. What you interrupted at the very beginning, Ethan.
You are dropping the ball on this bit right now.
Son of a bitch. He killed it. When he goes up and stops Randy Orton from hitting Edge, and he's like, come on, he's got a family, he's got kids. And then a couple minutes later, Edge has the chair, and he's like,
I did notice that. I did love that bit. He's like, he's got actually more kids, but those kids are assholes, so swing away.
There was nothing better than him only caring about one person in this match. I loved it. I think that, they could have, if they trimmed it down a little bit. I guess the biggest problem was fans were complaining like at the 15-minute mark. And so the next 15 minutes, it's going to feel like a long time because you started bitching pretty early. I wish there were just more spots. I wish there were things they tried, which obviously, you get to the end and they show Edge up on top of the trailer and Beth Phoenix tweets out like, thought you said no more ladder spots. And he just tweets back at her like, sorry. Like
he has to pull out his phone in the middle of the match and be like, ignore, like put this on the back burner. So, and also, part of the problem too is like your smarks that are complaining about it being too long at 15-minute mark are all like 17 years old. Like they don't know who the fuck Edge is and they don't like Randy Orton. Fuck them.
So I think you could have trimmed it. You could have done a few things better, a few more spots. And then, just have the ending be the concerto. Like, honestly, what I wanted was for the ref to get to that final count and for Edge to like stop it the same way Randy Orton stopped the count. And then for Edge to throw Randy Orton off the truck. Like, that's the spot I would have wanted. And then the 30 minutes would have totally been worth it. Didn't matter what happened.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
So I
was waiting for someone to go off the top of that truck. Yeah, that's the only letdown I had, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I think, it put Wade to sleep, but of all the complaints, it was not that high up on my list. I actually was more disappointed. You talked about the other match that we're going to talk about before we finish on up and get out of here. The Charlotte Flair Rhea Ripley match. Love the match, and then the finish. Nothing pisses me off more than you have somebody like Rhea Ripley who has just been a juggernaut. She's been building up. You get to the end of it, and a submission finish is always bad for me on somebody who's supposed to be a face. She comes out in the Dragon Ball Z gear that actually looks more like a Cody Rhodes ripoff. She's ready. She's got the white outfit on, and she taps, which I'm not saying you can't have her tap, but also put the fucking camera on her so you see her face as she's going through pain and you feel like you're with her. And instead they show Charlotte. Like she's the face. Yeah. They show her face during the
Rhea sold her ass off in that match, and that was kind of like, up until that might have been the best match of the entire weekend.
Those two could verbally make the match work. Like it was loud as shit and stiff.
It was great. It sucked you in. It was the match that, like, it's why I brought it up early. It's of everything that in an empty arena, which is distracting, you want a match that sucks you in. That was the match that drew me in. The whole way through, and Rhea selling, and Charlotte just knows how to work a match verbally as well as physically, and have the struggle for the submission go longer or something. And like you said, make the camera more dramatic. Make this more dramatic than a Monday Night Raw tap out. Like, I think that you nailed it right on the head. That was really the only thing that took away from the match, because that match was fucking great. And that's not even a bad finish. It was just the way it was done. Like, it could have gone on longer. Maybe you have one of those, someone just passes out from pain kind of finishes, which I know you can't do, more than once every, 20 years. But, like, maybe that's the time to do that.
I think Rhea Ripley's earned it in the last year. Like, if there's somebody that's done it, she's the one who's got herself in position to be pushed to the top. Give her a finish that's not going to tear her down. And I get that she, had visa issues. That might have been the reason she ultimately dropped the belt to Charlotte. Maybe it was just use Charlotte to prop up NXT. Whatever it was, I'm fine with Charlotte winning, but you have to protect Rhea Ripley when you had such a big build to her over the last year.
My fantasy booking going into that, before I was watching, kind of as I was watching, it was, I wanted it to be one of those matches where that move, the figure eight, is constantly defended and you don't see it. Even with the damage to the knee building up, she knows how to defend the figure eight. And to me, the finish that you get is similar to the finish for Rhea, and it would be hard to pull off, but it's taped, so fucking go for it. Is Rhea goes for the riptide off the middle rope, Charlotte flips to the top rope, second nature off the top rope. It's the move in her arsenal that she wasn't prepared for. That's a story that isn't told often and doesn't need to be told often, but when it's done right, is perfect for a WrestleMania title match. And I think that would have been a better finish than, like I said, like a tap out that you would see on a weekly TV show.
Wade, what did you think of the match?
I think three things remain true in this world, and that's death, taxes, and Charlotte Flair wins on pay-per-views. I think it was the best real match of the whole weekend. It was actually like one that, like, I believe I was cooking during like the beginning of this, because we did like a podcast right before, so I started cooking and was like going back and forth between the kitchen and this match, and like actually like stopped and was actually trying to watch this one. A similar situation was going on while I was trying to watch Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and they didn't quite keep me. So like I will say that Charlotte Flair had a better match than they did. And I was really hoping for that to be my favorite match of the weekend.
Yeah, but Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins had a better finish, bro.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Bro. It's a work shoot, bro. Fucking shit. But I like it. I like Charlotte Flair winning the NXT title and being like I booked it for a couple other people of being this, this WWE star for like Cesaro or other people going back to NXT and just running rampant on people. That's a perfect position for Charlotte Flair. She can go there and just like be the I'm better than you, I'm here. She's like get all that heat that Shayna Baszler left behind. I think it's a good move. I like it. I'm into it. NXT still kicking ass.
All right, we got one more match we need to talk about. I mean, I guess we probably should have given the triple threat ladder match a little bit more time, so maybe we'll hit that. But I do have to talk about the 5-Star Classic that should have gone on as one of the main events. Most important thing that happened at WrestleMania weekend. Otis versus Dolph Ziggler, and Otis getting his gal. Ethan, tell me how you felt about the greatest thing that's ever happened in wrestling, Otis kissing Mandy Rose.
You said it. It's the greatest things ever happened in wrestling. It's God's gift to wrestling, if you will, is that moment at the end. For kind of thinking of matches from this WrestleMania, if you were to pluck them out and put like this card together in an actual stadium and kind of think of it as a WrestleMania, this would have been one that would have been like, your perfect, early, like maybe like towards the end of your first act of WrestleMania kind of match. It has a really, really Vince McMahon kind of storyline of it just basically being like two men fighting over a woman. Like that's a very classic wrestling kind of thing. That's a very like
two men and a woman fighting over a woman.
Hang on. Yes, you're right. So it's got a little bit of an edge there. But yeah, it's just an easy story to tell. It's the basis of drama, and it's something that could have been pulled off on any WrestleMania, not just one that needed, more content. This was actually a good of all the storylines they had going in. I enjoyed this storyline. As like cornball as it was, Otis Dozovic is just a treasure to the wrestling world and should be treated as such. And I will rival Otis and Mandy right up there with Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth any goddamn day of the week.
Nobody can disagree with that. Wade, what do you have to say?
That's such fucking. No one can disagree with that. I don't think this is a WrestleMania worthy storyline. It's pre-show at best.
You're pre-show at best. Fuck you.
That's true. Also,
I have one complaint with the story.
Harder. What?
I have one complaint with the story, which is the weird whistleblower thing at the end. Like, it just
that is strange.
Is that gonna be Mustafa?
I don't fucking know. But
I'm wondering if that's something that's just gonna be ongoing, or what was the like hidden camera series thing they did like in like the what was it?
GTV?
Yes, GTV. Is this like another GTV where it's just gonna go away, or is this end up being somebody like how CM Punk comes back to wrestling? Like it literally go either way.
It's gonna be Enzo Amore. So I really think if they were gonna use it, you should have made it where it's exactly what I told you guys in the Facebook group. I was not kidding. This should have been like cut away to all night Tucker Knight making out with Mandy Rose in the back. Like that should have been the finish. That would have pushed on for another story going forward, and we would have had a blood feud between Otis and Tucker. That's the only way this should have gone.
Then Tucker puts Otis's head through the barbershop window. Tale as old as time.
So good.
It's just gonna, man. Think how long it's gonna be for Tucker Knight to turn into JBL. Man, we got a long time.
Just got to keep holding on, man. Tucker should have been fired months ago, but Otis is going to push him long enough. Tucker's just going to be there. And once Vince just like, that guy's supposed to be here every week, right? Like, where's that weird guy that's with Otis all the time? So you got to hang on.
That's how I'm planning on getting a WWE career. Is I'm just going to hang around long enough where Vince expects me to be like kind of like a coffee table. You're like, where did that coffee table go? Like, that's a piece of my normal layout of my living room. I'm supposed to be here. That's how I'm going to make it big, boys.
All right. So before we finish up, just want to do one last thing. I said we need to talk about the triple threat ladder match. One moment, because there was, once again, when you have a ladder match and there's no crowd and you can hear everything that these wrestlers are going through, it was a brutal match to watch, but there was also a lot of really cool spots. What was your favorite moment of that match? Wade, we'll start with you.
I don't have one.
Oh, okay.
I was just so disappointed. It was like all because the Miz is gone.
Yeah, I think a better use of this would have been, you still have both Usos, you still have both New Day, and then you have just Morrison by himself win it. That's even a better story. It's a better way to tell that. But
I agree.
Too many people in the ring.
And
social distancing.
And you're probably right. Actually, I think they had a certain point there, but yeah, I mean, it was just one of those matches that, oh God, it sucks. Like every ladder match is one that you have to like, as a fan, like really like tip your hat to because it's a fucking ladder match. Like you just probably took a year off your career by participating in a ladder match. So for it to be one that I don't really remember, like I remember a couple spots, but like but that's because it was last week. If you ask me in 6 months what my favorite spot was from this ladder match, or name a spot from this ladder match, it's going to be a little harder to do.
I don't remember.
Maybe that does, and maybe Wade was asleep, but maybe,
Wade is pretending to watch any of this. He is playing it by ear. He only knows what Twitter says.
Wade fucking fell asleep watching WrestleMania 17 on the network, and that's what he's trying to recall. But yeah, no, it's weird. That's like, again, like you said, it's like the weirdest part of doing a match like this without a crowd. Isn't just a matter of the wrestlers feeding off the adrenaline. It's also like your fans feeding off of each other. I think in wrestling as a whole, fans feed off each other. You watch wrestling and you hear a huge pop, and it kind of gives you chills as you're watching wrestling. Like that's that part of the entertainment. And I think that's necessary in a ladder match. Like a ladder match with no reaction, and all it is just like guys landing on steel and screaming in agony. It just becomes like torture porn at a certain point. You're like, this is uncomfortable. This is just three guys who are going to end their careers or shorten their careers for a match that no one's really going to remember. And that's a huge fucking bummer.
Whew.
All right. Well, I'll have to step up and be the one who has all three spots for us. So there was a moment where whichever Uso was involved, Kofi hits him with the ladder, and I think he basically says like "respect Us" or something like that before he hits.
Oh my God, that was so stupid.
Actually, I take it back. Heart. That is gonna go.
Oh, you got heart, yeah.
Annals of time.
So then you have the moment. I forget what the Uso says, but he starts talking shit before he ends up throwing Kofi's head back into the ladder. Then the moment that is probably the top one is John Morrison tight roping a Spanish fly, which Spanish fly is usually like, well, this is the coolest shitty move ever. But he walked across the rope to do it, and you're just like, holy crap, that man is amazing. But obviously with the finish, it's hard to say that there's nothing to remember. John Morrison getting the belts, falling down, and taking them with him. For nothing else than John Morrison in the middle. There are no fans there cheering him on. They have whatever adrenaline's left after they've bashed each other's heads into ladders for so long. For Morrison to fall off the top, to land on the ladder that's pressed up against the rope and against the other ladder. Like, yeah, that's a good ending no matter what.
It is. I agree. And that's a motherfucker of a bump to take in front of no fans. Like, but
you're right, Ethan. If it would have been the actual tag match where he wins by himself and he has that type of victory, that would have even made it that much better. You would have had four guys staring at this.
Same finish. Yeah. Use the exact same finish too.
So that would have been good. I will say we've gotten to the end. We made sure we got that in there. The one thing we missed because we fantasy booked the Braun Strowman aspect so much. I was gonna, the same way I fantasy booked Undertaker coming out of WrestleMania, I was gonna fantasy book how we get the Fiend to next year. It involves John Cena getting in the way again. It also involves the one last person who will be left that has a great potential rivalry with Bray Wyatt once the Braun's done with him, and that's Roman Reigns. And I'm going to find a way to fantasy book Roman Reigns, John Cena in with the Fiend going to next year's WrestleMania. But to hear that fantasy booking, you're going to have to come back to the next time we talk. I don't know when that's going to be because there's now not going to be a Money in the Bank preview. That's already been canceled.
Yeah.
So in a couple of weeks, we'll just have to get back on and talk about all of the audience wrestling that was pre-taped and shot in one night for AEW, and I don't even know what the hell WWE is doing anymore to tape shows. But we're going to have to get together in a couple weeks, talk about that, and that's when people will hear my awesome plan for the Fiend. But that's all we have for this episode of the Making Wrestling Show on the Tell Me More podcast. Later, Mark.